Hello everyone, welcome to the Backtracking episode proper for Lunachicks, and we kick things off with the band's debut album, Babysitters on Acid. Released in 1990, it would be their only one through Blast First Records, and it was produced by Wharton Tears. I already went through the background behind this one, but I didn't talk about what happened after its release. See, the band didn't like how it was produced, and also they didn't get paid, so me thinks that them switching labels after was maybe a smart move. Heck, this album was re-released in 2001 through Go-Kart Records, and while I don't know which version I went up listening to, what I do know is that this album starts with the song Jam Brady. As you would expect from this particular old-school strain of riot girl punk, it's irreverent and doesn't take itself seriously, and that totally works in its favour. There are elements to it that have an almost Beastie Boys quality to them, with the snotty attitude and risque lyrics being a big part of that. While I do agree that the production for this one isn't great, assuming that I heard the 1990 original version, that's really the only bad thing about it. Bad production can't bring down this album's energy or style, and it sure as shit can't bring down the band trying this hard to make it all work. And work it does. The pacing of this is surprisingly more restrained in places than you might think, and the instruments all bounce off each other really well, and Theo Kogan's deep, drawling, sardonic delivery is pitch perfect for this kind of style. My favourite song goes to Theme Song. That's the actual name of it. So yeah, this album was handled grossly, both in terms of its production and the label management afterwards, but still got a lot of good things going for it. This is some acid worth taking, but don't babysit while you're on it, word to the wise. Next is the band's second album, Binge and Purge, released in 1992. It would come out through Safe House Records, and it would be produced by Mason Temple. So after their debut turned out pretty well, the band got a chance to tour with the Dictators in 1991, and the band would get surprisingly popular due to their drummer Becky Rack appearing on perennial douche stain Howard Stern's lesbian dating game show thingy. Sort of fitting that this would be her last album with the band, but heck, she does a good job for her last appearance. Back to the album itself though, it starts with the song Apathetic, and it's clear from the very start that this album is a more fast-paced, more hard rock leaning sort of effort from them. It's still got a punk rock style pacing to it, but it feels more classic rockish in its structure, which isn't a bad thing. Honestly, it provides more of a gateway into the band's sound, and considering the time that it came out where the style wasn't particularly common, that is quite the achievement. But don't be fooled, just because there's a slightly new take on their sound doesn't mean that the band's attitude to what they do is any different, because it isn't, nor does it really need to be. It's still got the same attitude and bite as their debut did, and the pacing feels a bit more evened out because of that, despite the overall sound feeling a lot faster. Lyrically, it's about the same stuff as last time, even though I didn't talk about any lyrics on their debut, talking about things like corruption, sexuality, drug addiction, abuse too, I think, and the usual lyrical content that flew around at the time, specifically in line with this style. And it's solid instrumentally too, with thicker feeling riffs and drum work and a dirty, grungy feel to it. It's just, honestly, it's great. I like it. My favourite song goes to Super Strong. This album is more worth a binge than it is a purge, and thanks to some improved production and a slight tweak to the sound, I think that this one's worth it. Next is the band's third album, Jerk of All Trades. Released in 1995, it would be the band's first via the Go-Kart Records label, and it was produced by Ray Martin. So after their second album, the band started to get more international attention, even going to Japan and releasing an EP titled Sushi a la Mode. Oh, and also this album was the first to have Chip English on drums. That aside, this one starts with the song Drop Dead, and it's sort of a more punk rocky feeling album from then on. It harks back a lot to their debut without feeling regressive, and holy shit, it's actually produced quite well this time around. I mean, yeah, there was an improvement in that department from album 1 to album 2, but album 3 feels light years ahead in that regard. And this album, to my knowledge, hasn't been re-released. Just think about that. This album came out 25 years ago, and it sounds like it came out only last week. But it's not just the production that's good. Considering the 3-year gap between albums, you could make the argument that it paid off for the band and they sound as good as ever still, even with the new people brought in. It's also kind of more experimental in its structuring, in a way. It's got that classic punk rock riot girl stamp of the band, that's for certain, but they stretch out songs a bit more and still maintain their impact, making for a slightly more measured experience that fits this album's long-ass 52-minute length. Having said that, the lyrics on this one are dumb. There's more stuff about sex and modern media, and there's also a song called Butt Plug, and to be honest, that's all that I think I'll say about that. If you could push past that, though, the instrumental work, performances, and production are pretty damn top-notch. My favourite song goes to Light as a Feather. So yeah, occasionally silly lyrics, but amazing production, the band still sound great, and there's a lovely pacing and sense of risk that actually works well. Next up is their fourth album, titled the same way that most people describe my face, Pretty Ugly. Released in 1997, it would again be released through Go-Kart Records, and it would be produced by none other than Fat Mike of NoFX. This album would mark another change for the band, as guitarist Cindy would leave after the album's release and make the band a quartet. And this album also features the song Don't Want You, their most well-known song, which I'd never heard until doing this episode. That aside, this album starts with a song titled Yeah, and to be fair, this does really have the Fat Mike stamp all over it. It does feel like Lunachicks pay tribute to NoFX in some way, and that's not a bad thing, to be honest. This album just bleeds that old school fun punk style, and if Jerk of All Trades was the album where Lunachicks started to take themselves less seriously, this is the album where they just throw that seriousness out of a window into heavy traffic, where it gets hit by an 18-wheeler and then eaten by vultures. I don't mean that in a good way, because the tone does mesh things a bit better this time around. This album has songs about sporks, Sidney Silver's pet gerbil passing away, lesbianism, self-respect, and it never misses a beat with it. It's again just paced well, fast when it needs to be and slow when it needs to be, and it matches well with its fun, silly nature. And yeah, the production's nice, but it's the big brass balls that the band has to be able to pull this off that just stands out the most to me. They're just having fun and having fun doing it, and I can never, ever fault a band for that. Ever. It's one of my many weaknesses. My favourite song goes to What's Left. Pretty Ugly is another feather in the band's cap, just an injection of fun and silliness that punk needs a lot more of nowadays. And finally, we reached the band's 5th album, Luxury Problem. Released in 1999, it would come out through Go-Kart Records again, and be produced by Phil Hernandez and Chris Maxwell. So this album was sort of a hard one for the band to do. First, there was a live album in 1998 titled Drop Dead Live, and at the time they'd been touring a lot more internationally, hitting up Japan and Europe as well as their native home country, and they even played the 1999 Warped Tour too. That added pressure could have been what led to their split shortly after, but I can't really say for sure. Putting that aside though, this album starts with the song Less Teeth, More Tits. Yes, that is the name, and yeah, that basically sums up how the band feels about this album as well as how I feel about this album. To clarify what I mean by that, let's just put it this way: if it's going to be your last one and you know that and the pressure is getting to you, you may as well just say fuck it and keep having fun with it. To be fair, at this stage the band could have just phoned it in, but I'm really glad they didn't. I won't say that they had the most difficult time making this one, but I'll be damned if I don't enjoy it. It's once again the band's snarly attitude and irreverent and oddly catchy songwriting that really helped this album out, and hell, Go-Kart, in my opinion, good label. The production side feels cleaner than it's ever been, and the band absolutely just give it their all on this one. And hey, it's actually a nice change of pace to have lyrics that take themselves a bit more seriously, talking about sexuality, feminism, politics, toxic relationships. They draw from a surprisingly deep well in this album that sort of concerns me, but also makes me happy. And yeah, the structuring is still pretty top notch with solid pacing changes that feel earned and help to carry the album through to its end, and some really good balanced production too. My favourite song goes to Shut You Out. This is a pretty good note to end that part of their career, and hopefully they can come back strong soon with more stuff like this 2 decades after the fact. So that's it for this one. Did these guys make you feel more luxurious, or was it more problematic? Was it pretty or was it ugly? Was it toothy or more titty? Ugh. Anyway, next time is going to be Montreal, Quebec Canada's own The Agonist. But before I actually do sign off, I want to say thank you to everyone who watched the PBW stream last night. That women's tornado tag match was fucking fire. It was so good. Anyway, I'll see you all presumably on the weekend for a fight of the night, I think. I don't know. Probably. As always, thank you for watching. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.